This is Garrett Fry, the Cityscape Sequence Lead for 3D Digital Map Painting, and we're taking a look at B102. So if we take a look, the camera starts out, goes off to the right, and this is a late evening shot. And so late evening shots are really great because the lighting is really beautiful. You have this really nice warm light coming from this side of the environment, shining on all of these buildings. And so what you're going to want to make sure is that you are, of course, changing up to 50% of above this line on your cityscape. So that is putting buildings in front or in back, or replacing buildings completely. So when you are doing this, you can see some of the qualities of the buildings in the plate, and you're going to want to follow some of those. But first you have to really look at them and figure out what is going on with these buildings. And so one thing that you can see is it has a really nice shadow shapes that are happening from these buildings being cast on other buildings. So you can see the shape of these buildings here. You can see the reflection of the environment. So like on this particular building, we have a reflection of a building. And then up here, we have a reflection of the sky. And so it's kind of cut right here. And that's a really cool look here. And so there's a bunch of different things that if you go through and you study the plate and you're like, I'm going to put a building right here. Well, if you're going to put a building right there, then what are the qualities of that building that need to be there? Is it going to have light being, is it going to have a shadow being cast on it? Is it going to have a reflection? And it depends on the type of your building as well. Does it have a high specular quality to it? Does it have is it cement? So it's kind of diffuse and it doesn't reflect very well. And so those are the things that you'll want to notice in the plate. The specular quality, you can see that there's these windows right here that are shining really quite brightly. And then, along with also those there, but these don't reflect all that well, and this doesn't reflect all that much. And so you'll want to make those decisions. So while you're going through this shot and making your decisions about what references you're going to be using, then you need to be mindful of the other shots in this sequence, B100, B101, and B103. Because all of these are of the same location, so you'll have to make considerations of the references that you use. If you're using one building for your B102 shot, that same building has to work for all three of these shots. And if you have one building that only looks good with this shot, then you are going to have to really crank it and kind of push it around to make it work for these other shots. If you sometimes it's easier to start out with an overcast building, and then you can put the light qualities into it. You can add things on top. Or if you've got like the same building from the same location and approximately the same perspective, but it's being lit at different times of the day, then you can use different versions of the building. Like you've got one version of the building that is evening lit, and that's what you use, or another building that's being day lit, and that's what you use for the daylight. So you have a couple different options there to consider when you're trying to fit your buildings into these shots. Make sure that before you jump into these shots, you download the image library. The image library consists of nearly 500 raw images. That's 2.27 gigs of buildings from 5 different cities from around the world: Sydney, Wellington, Adelaide, San Francisco, and New Orleans. So there's a huge variety of buildings to choose from. The photo reference includes buildings under all different lighting conditions and angles, so it pays off to familiarize yourself with the materials you're going to use to successfully execute these shots.